There is a kind of dream, not vivid, not logical, not painted in bright colors, only a hallway, endlessly long, white, silent, empty. On both sides stand mirrors, towering to the ceiling, stretching without edge. You walk between them. The sound of your footsteps is swallowed whole, and when you look into the mirror, nothing reflects. No reflection, no shadow, nothing at all. A silence so thick it suffocates. And in that moment, you are not afraid. You only feel something is watching you, not with eyes, but with memory. Have you ever recognized something you never learned? Not knowledge, not memory, but a feeling so deep that you knew this before you were ever born. Maybe it's a gaze that clenches your heart, or the moment you stand in a foreign street and everything around you, the faded signs, the scent in the wind, the faint jingle of bells from afar, all call to you by a name you cannot recall. You have been there, but not in this life. You don't dare tell anyone, because maybe they'd say you're hallucinating. But deep inside, your soul does not speak in words. It speaks through trembling, through a longing with no clear object. Perhaps this is not the time to learn something new, but remember the time when you once knew. A return, not to a house, but to the innermost place within yourself. At the end of that mirrored hallway, someone is waiting for you, not turning their face, not calling your name, just standing there, in silence, as if they have waited for you through lifetimes, hoping that this time you will not turn away. Have you ever dreamed of a house, one you've never lived in? Nothing extraordinary, just dark wooden walls, a dim oil lamp resting on the windowsill, and the howl of wind slipping through the cracks of an old floor. You walk through each room, not afraid, but familiar. You run your hand along the staircase railing, and it feels as if your fingers have slid across it 1,000 times before. Then, when you wake, you tell yourself, must be from watching too many movies. Just a dream. But days later, you stumble across an old photograph, a place in some worn magazine, and that ancient feeling surges back, like an electric current shooting down your spine. Not déjà vu, not delusion, but a memory that doesn't belong to this life, struggling to return. Some people have shared that. They spoke a language they had never studied in their lives, or dreamed of standing trial in an ancient court, feeling suffocated by terror without knowing why. Later, when they conducted their research, they discovered the details matched with eerie precision. The soul does not forget. It only waits for you to be still enough to listen. And when it sends back a memory, it does not use words. It uses vibration. A sensation as thin as silk but stretching deep into the heart. An image fleeting as smoke but haunting an entire dream. A sudden moment that stops you cold, and you can't explain why. You might call it a coincidence. But those coincidences always appear when you stand at the edge of change. That is when the soul knocks, soft, silent, yet patient. Not to make you believe in past lives, but to make you feel yourself again. Not to label it a special dream, but to let you know, every time your heart trembles without reason, it is a fragment of your soul returning. Did you know? The human brain forgets 95% of dreams within just 5 minutes of waking. That isn't a mistake. It's biology, a mechanism designed to keep you steady, to keep you from drowning in the chaos of the subconscious. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it, there may exist a deeper layer, a place where soul memories are sealed away, not because you aren't intelligent enough to remember, but because they once wounded you. Imagine you once lived a lifetime. You were betrayed by the very one you saved, or witnessed the death of the person you swore to protect. Or you were the one who caused another's suffering. And when you crossed into this life, your soul locked that door, knowing that if you remembered too soon, you would collapse. The dreams you cannot hold on to. Where are those memories of the soul pushing through? Not as a clear story. No beginning, no ending, only fragments. The eyes of someone in the rain. A soft knock on an old wooden door. A necklace in your hand that you cannot place. Or an inexplicable sadness rising as you hear an ancient melody without words. That is not a hallucination. It is the fragments of a soul not yet healed. The soul doesn't shout, it trembles. Want you to carry it all at once. It is wiser than you realize. It will only open the door when you are strong enough to face it. And you know, the very fact that you are here now listening to these words, it is already a sign that a part of you is ready. A part buried so deep has been whispering, "We cannot keep running forever. It is time to return and complete what was left unfinished." Perhaps the door is about to open. Waiting only for the moment you pause and truly listen. A woman once shared. For years, she kept dreaming of a car accident. No faces, no clear time, only this. She was always in the back seat, heavy rain pouring down, the screech of brakes, and a whisper repeating in her ear, "Not this car." At first, she ignored it. She thought it was stress, too many movies. Her husband even joked, "You've been watching too many horror films." So she convinced herself of the same. But the dream returned, dozens of times, always the same, always with the same feeling, so real, so near, so urgent. Then one day, they were preparing for a long trip. She walked out to their SUV, the one they had driven for 3 years. That day, the sky was grey, with rain drizzling down. As her hand touched the door handle, a chill shot down her spine. No reason, no voice this time, only the sense that if she stepped into that car, there would be no way back. She froze, silent. Then she told her husband, "I want to switch cars. I don't know why, but please, trust me." At first, he didn't understand, but they chose a rental instead. Later that afternoon, news reached them. Their family SUV had been in a terrible accident. The driver confirmed that the brakes had slipped on the wet road. The person sitting in the back seat didn't survive. That woman said, she isn't sure what saved her. A guiding spirit, a part of her that already knew, or simply a dream that was no longer just a dream. Have you ever had a dream? Did that later reveal itself as more than a dream? A conversation? A strange place that felt achingly familiar? A sense, as if someone was trying to tell you something significant. The soul isn't silent. It waits to send letters. It does not speak in human voices. It only repeats. An image, a sound, a whisper. The question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? The mind is clever, truly. It makes plans, keeps track of deadlines, analyzes risks. It helps you survive in a world that values logic over emotion. But the mind is also terrified of what it cannot control. When the soul sends a message, it does not come through reasoning. It arrives through vibration. A sudden wave of sadness, a gaze that makes your chest tighten, a memory flashing in and out, leaving behind a very real aftershock. The rational mind panics at such things. It has no tools to measure them, no formulas to explain them. And so, it fights back. Have you ever heard it say things like, "You're just imagining this"? There's no evidence for that. Feelings aren't reliable. Maybe you're just tired. The deeper the inner experience, the stronger the mind builds its walls, trying to protect you from losing control. But have you ever wondered, who is really in control of you? Maybe it isn't you at all. Maybe it's the fear within you. Fear of being judged. Fear of believing in what cannot be proven. Fear that your feelings might take you somewhere no one else will follow. The mind is not the enemy. It is a gatekeeper, trained since childhood to guard the doorway of your soul. The problem is, it only allows what is reasonable. and locks away what is profound yet wordless. Think back. How many times have you felt something so true, only to have your mind dismiss it right after, as if a door had just opened, slammed shut by a familiar voice? Don't overthink it. You may have been remembering something sacred, but your rational mind has been trained to believe you were only imagining. And so once again, the message is buried, not by the outside world, but by you. There are people you meet for the very first time, yet your soul reacts as if it has lived beside them for ages. It isn't an attraction, it isn't romance, it isn't desire. It is a silent recognition, a deep stillness their presence brings, as if you've just found something you lost long ago. Have you ever felt that? A stranger, no history, no messages exchanged, and yet, when you meet their eyes, you feel like you've come home. There is no proof, no story to retell, only a peace that needs no explanation. Perhaps you are remembering a promise two souls once made. Before entering this life, a vow to find each other again, no matter the skin, the gender, the nation, or the circumstance. The signs are rarely grand. They are subtle. A look, a small gesture, a single phrase that makes your heart tighten as if you've heard it before, a silence that makes you feel understood. You might ask yourself, what is this? Why does it feel like I remember this person? But then the rational mind cuts in. It's an illusion. Don't make it up. And still, the vibration lingers. You feel compelled to protect this person, though you don't know why. You feel your heartbeat slow when they leave, though nothing has even begun. Not everyone we meet is from a past life, but if someone makes you recognize yourself, if they help you touch the unspoken part of your heart, then maybe this isn't your first meeting. It's a reunion. Perhaps you once went through something immense together. Perhaps you broke a promise. Perhaps you waited for each other through a war. Perhaps you were teacher and student. Perhaps you were the betrayer. Or maybe you simply once held hands in a nameless realm. And now, as your soul opens wide enough, they walk into your life again, without drama, without noise, simply at the right time. Have you ever dreamed, and inside that dream, you knew with absolute clarity that you were dreaming? You weren't swept away. You observed. You chose. You touched objects in the dream and felt the grain of the wall, the warmth of candlelight, the smell of decaying wood inside an old room. That is not an ordinary dream. That is a lucid dream, a place where you don't passively drift through images, but become a conscious traveler in the deepest layers of your soul. Someone once dreamed they were sitting in a room with stained glass windows. Light poured across a wooden table. On the table lay letters, handwritten in a strange language. But in the dream, they understood every word. When they woke, they researched the language. It was 18th century French, a language they had never studied. The feeling was not, "Oh, what a strange dream." It was, "I have been there. I lived that life. I once sat in that body and knew that world as my own." Lucid dreams don't create something new. They reopen what once belonged to you, but has long been buried, like a reel of memory film locked away, now played again. But only if you are awake enough within the unconscious, and there you might meet someone with no name in this life, but whom you once loved deeply. Hear a phrase from another lifetime, still echoing meaning into this one. See a symbol, an artifact, a mountain, and know you once called that place home. The memory of the soul does not live in books. It does not speak in words. It only appears When you are dreaming enough to drift, yet awake enough to notice. And when you wake, the feeling remains, not like a dream fading away, but like a hidden part of you has just come alive again. Have you ever been doing something completely ordinary, washing dishes, holding the steering wheel, standing at a red light, and suddenly felt, I am in two places at once. A part of you is still here, but another part. It is somewhere far away, in another life, with another identity, living a story you've never been told. Yet, in that instant, you can feel it. You know you're standing in the kitchen, but at the same time, you sense yourself walking through an old moss-covered garden, your hand brushing against a silver-threaded robe, your eyes resting on a distant mountain peak, holding a sorrow that has no name. You don't see it in full detail, but it isn't imagination. It doesn't need to appear vividly to be real. No one has shared these memories with you, but your body remembers. A corner of your awareness remembers. Your soul has never forgotten. Science refers to this phenomenon as split perception. Some even label it dissociative illusion. But beneath those terms, there lies another possibility. Your soul is living multiple realities at the same time. For the soul does not move along the timeline of the mind. It doesn't begin, live, and then end. It is a stream of consciousness branching in many directions, each branch a body, a story, an experience, yet all part of one single map, the map of remembrance. As you begin to awaken, those branches begin to rise to the surface, not in order, not by schedule, but by depth and frequency. And when a fragment from another life rises, it does not need to speak. It only needs to make you feel both loss and return simultaneously. You are not crazy. You are not disconnected. On the contrary, you are becoming more connected to the parts of yourself you were once too restless to hear. And if you feel it now, as you read these words, perhaps another timeline within you has just been called by name. If during this video, there was an image that made you pause for a few seconds, a feeling that suddenly rose, even if you don't know from where, that was not random. Perhaps you just saw yourself in the eyes of a stranger from another lifetime. Or maybe you remembered a fragment of an old dream you once dismissed as just a dream. And if your heart stirred, even the slightest, at the mention of a scene, a sound, a symbol, please don't ignore it. Leave it here, below. It doesn't need to be clear. It doesn't need to be logical. It only needs to be true. Maybe you once met a stranger who felt like someone you had known forever, dreamed of speaking a language you never studied, saw a distant place in a dream and still remembered every street, or simply felt, I was someone else once. Don't keep that to yourself. Write it down. Because when you write it down, you are opening a door, and maybe another soul watching this same video, carrying a memory still unnamed, will read your words and remember themselves. We live in a world where everyone tries to appear rational, logical, composed. But here, on this journey, you are allowed to be the one who remembers. No one will judge. No one will deny. Only souls finding their way back to one another through memories, through silence, through words left unspoken. You walk into a cafe for the very first time. A wooden door, the soft ring of a bell as it opens. A server wearing a white shirt stands behind the counter. The smell of coffee, the warm, dim light, all of it perfectly ordinary. But your body freezes. Something inside you tightens, and you hear yourself whisper in your mind, I've been here before. Even though you know for certain, you've never stepped into this place. You've never seen these people. And you've never smelled this coffee anywhere else. That is déjà vu, literally already seen. One of those strange experiences almost everyone has had. Brief, elusive, yet deep enough to make you stop in your tracks. What does neuroscience say? It calls it a glitch in the hippocampus, the part of the brain that handles short-term and long-term memory. Your brain mistakenly files the present moment into the folder of already known, making you feel like you've lived it before. And yes, it could be a small technical error, but then why? Do these errors make your heart seize? Why do they so often happen when you wander into an unfamiliar place? Meet a stranger, or hear a phrase that seems meaningless. Carl Jung didn't see it as an error. He believed these moments. These are when the memory of the soul intersects with a point in the present. As if you were walking along a road and suddenly your foot struck a stone that had once been under your feet in another time. It doesn't come from the brain. It doesn't come from the eyes. It comes from the deepest place where your awareness brushes against every life you've ever lived. And when the soul recognizes something, it doesn't shout. It simply trembles. You might feel a chill across your skin, or warmth climbing up your spine, or tears filling your eyes, for no reason you can name. Because in that moment, you are not remembering. You are being reminded. Have you ever dreamed of a door you never opened? A masked figure who never spoke, only stared at you for a long time? A child quietly walking behind you in a dream that keeps repeating. No one taught you those images. You didn't invent them. They came, as if they had always been inside you, long before you had words. Carl Jung referred to this as the collective unconscious. Not the personal subconscious, not the memory of this life, but a deeper layer where memory doesn't belong to one individual, but to all of us as a species of souls. In this layer exist archetypes, images that appear again and again in dreams, myths, and religions across every civilization, even those who never met, never read one another. The mother, the shadow. The guide, the adversary. The door unopened. The journey to recover the lost self. No one commands you to dream of endless hallways. No one orders you to meet the masked figure. Yet every soul has seen them, in one form or another. Because the soul is not born blank, it carries within it the memory of the whole. And when you dream, you are not only decoding yourself, you are accessing the collective library, where every symbol you see is a call back home. Jung never sanctified this idea. He simply invited us to notice, if people everywhere dream of the same symbols, could it be that this is the language the soul has spoken long before humans learned to write? And if that is true, then every time you dream of a strange symbol, don't dismiss it, because maybe you are not the first to see it. You are simply the one being remembered in this moment. Imagine your consciousness as a 3-story house, not a gleaming tower, but an old, quiet, timeless home. You live on the top floor, where light floods in, where sound is clear, where everything feels reasonable. This is the conscious mind, the place where you know your name, your work, and what day of the week it is. Go a little lower, and you enter the middle floor. The light is dimmer here, and the furniture is covered in dust. This is the subconscious, the keeper of childhood memories, unspoken wounds, forgotten dreams. You don't often come here, but sometimes with just a scent drifting past. A door opens and you find yourself crying without knowing why. But there is still another floor. No staircase is marked, no lamps, no map. This is the basement, the place where soul memories live. Why is this floor locked? Because if, from the very start, you remembered everything you had ever been, every loss, every mistake, every broken promise across hundreds of lifetimes, you would collapse under the weight, unable to live a new one. Forgetting is a gift. It is the chance to begin again, unburdened by the judgments of your former selves. But there are moments when you have lived enough pain, asked yourself enough questions, looked into the mirror and no longer recognized the eyes staring back. The basement begins to tremble, not because you went searching, but because it knows you are ready. Soul memory does not reveal itself through language. It does not say, "I am your past life," or "This is why you fear water." Instead, it delivers unfinished emotions, a sudden choking grief, an unexplainable fear, An outstretched hand in a dream. You do not need to understand. You only need to listen. And from there, the awakening begins. Not to know more, but to go deeper. Do you remember the Hall of Mirrors from the beginning of this video? That long corridor, cold, silent, suffocating. Mirrors are lined on both sides. But they did not reflect you. They were silent, empty, fogged with mist. In that moment you wondered, do I even exist? Or has my soul gone astray? Now, return to that same corridor. It is still you, but you are not the same. You are someone who has opened a few doors in consciousness, someone who no longer dismisses dreams as illusions, someone who has stood in enough darkness for the eyes to adjust to the shadow. You step past the first mirror, and this time, there is a faint reflection. Dim, but there. You pause, breathing slowly. The second mirror, clearer. The third. You see a pair of eyes, deep, silent, familiar, as if you once saw them in a stranger long ago and only now realize they were your own. You are no longer afraid. You do not need an explanation. You simply look. And at the far end of the corridor, the figure waiting no longer turns away. They are walking toward you, step by step, unhurried, wordless. As the distance closes, you notice they wear clothes you have never worn. Their hair is different. Their gestures are not the same, but their eyes, identical. Perhaps this is another you from another lifetime. A fragment of soul you once abandoned out of fear, out of pain, out of unreadiness. Now they return, not to reproach you, but to smile, as if to say, "Thank you. At last, you remembered me." And in that instant, you understand. You are not only moving forward into the future, you are also returning to gather the parts of yourself you once left behind. The figure at the end of the corridor does not speak. They simply extend their hand, resting in it, a wooden box, old, scratched, unlocked, and strangely, you know this box, as if you have held it before. You reach for it, not with curiosity, but with a longing too deep to name. The box opens. No magical light, no sound, only a map. Not a map of land or cities or physical journeys, but a map of memory. You see markings both strange and familiar, lines drawn as if by a trembling hand, names of people you no longer remember in this life, symbols like codes. You understand them, though you cannot say why. In the corner of the map, words appear. These are the things you promised not to forget. Your hands shake. Your eyes move across faded ink. There is a fragment of an unfinished memory, a face with no name, but eyes that pierce your heart. A vow once spoken, buried in the unconscious, a wound. You thought it belonged to the present, but it did not. You want to cry, not from pain, but from remembering. The map does not reveal everything. It only shows what you are ready to face. And because of that, it feels alive. You look up. The one who gave you the box is gone. No message left behind. Only a gentle light fell from the ceiling of the corridor, and in your hands, the map, glowing now with the rhythm of your breath. No one else can interpret this map on your behalf. Not a teacher, not a book, not even this video, because it was never written for anyone else. It was written from within you. If the map that opened in your hands was not meant to recall the past, but to remind you of a promise, then who is the one waiting for you to fulfill it? Not someone in this life, but a soul. Someone you may have once loved, once guided, once wounded. In a time your memory no longer holds, And if the dream you thought was mere fantasy was a meeting planned with intention from another lifetime, crafted carefully by both you and them, then what will you do next time when that person appears again? Will you dare to pause while the world rushes around you to ask them softly, did we meet before this life began? Not everyone dares to ask, because it is not a question of words. It is a question of the heart, a question that does not demand an answer, only honesty, because perhaps they too are carrying a map of their own. And on that map, there is a mark: the day I meet you again. Soul memory does not send messages so that you can live in the past. It sends them so you can complete what was left undone. An encounter that never had a farewell, a song that was never finished, a seed of love that never had the chance to bloom. And if in your life someone appears who, simply by being near, makes you dissolve and be reborn at the same time, don't rush to explain it away. Ask your heart first, did I once promise this soul that I would recognize them no matter what form they take? If you are still here, sitting with this video until the very last second, then perhaps it isn't only you who is listening. Maybe your soul has also been whispering something your mind cannot yet put into words. And that is the most beautiful thing. I don't hope you remember every part of this video. There's no need to take notes, no need to analyze. All that matters is if one image, one phrase, or even one moment of stillness, maybe you feel just a little closer to yourself. Maybe it was the hall of mirrors, maybe it was the familiar eyes in a dream, or maybe just a moment where you fell silent without knowing why. Don't try to hold it. Let it stay, like a seed resting inside you. Because the deepest truths do not need to be remembered by the brain. They only need to be lived once. If this journey truly touched you, leave beneath this video a fragment of memory, a feeling, or something that makes no clear sense but still insists on being spoken. It doesn't need perfect sentences. It doesn't need to be on topic. It only needs honesty. Perhaps you won't receive applause for it, but maybe another soul will read your words and recognize themselves in your sharing. The path of awakening is not a straight line. It is fragments you pick up during the longest nights. It is the moments you wake suddenly from a dream. It is the gaze of someone who seems a stranger, yet stirs something ancient within you. Thank you for not clicking away the moment you didn't understand, for not turning aside when things felt uncertain, for letting your soul remain seated here, even if only for a moment, in this space. And who knows, this may not be the first time we have met. Tonight, if you lie down and dream of a stranger walking toward you, with eyes that seem to have known you for a very long time, don't turn away too quickly. Perhaps they are not strangers at all, but a part of you, from a time you stopped remembering, though your soul never forgot. If they say nothing in the dream, only stand there, silent, then you don't need to ask anything. Just stand still and feel. Perhaps they are carrying a message, or perhaps only their presence. Because sometimes what we need most is not an answer, but someone beside us in the realm of dreams. And if you wake with your heart heavy from an unnamed feeling, don't rush to analyze it. Let it drift with the new day, because maybe it is not meant to be understood, but remembered. Next time, if in the crowd you catch an eye that makes your breath catch, pause for a beat. Because maybe that is the one you once promised to recognize, no matter the name they carry, no matter the form they wear. No one ever taught you this. No school prepared you to recognize a soul at a glance. But you know from within, because the soul does not learn, it remembers. And when the time arrives, what needs to meet will find its way back. The journey does not end here. It is only beginning, in silence. May you have a night full of dreams, And if your soul has something to say through them, just listen. No need to believe right away. Only stay long enough. Perhaps what you thought was only a dream is the truest life of all.